Here we go again.
Banking while black. PNC Bank, they refused to allow a black woman to cash a check, even though it was their bank the check was issued from. Had the bank's name on it.
As an attorney, I would say that Ms. Young definitely has a case.
And this isn't the only time it's happened this year.
The woman at the center of this lawsuit says she tried 4 times, in fact, to cash a legitimate check until it was confiscated.
I never got racially profiled before, so I walked outside and I was crying. It was embarrassing.
We sent a white customer to the exact same Comerica Bank branch location. That white customer had none of the same issues.
Now here we are again talking about yet another person who just so happened to be black, right? And they went to a bank. Now, of course, you guys know me. We don't normally go into racial type situations, but it just so happened that this person was not able to cash their check in the way that it looks. Okay, unfortunately, it may be racial profiling. I'll let you decide. Watch this.
Once again, banking while black. Put up the picture full mass. PNC Bank is on the agenda today. They refused to allow a black woman to cash a check, even though it was their bank the check was issued from. Had the bank's name on it.
Real quick, be sure to download our free ebook today. All you got to do is scan this QR code right here or click the link in the description below. Now back to the video.
$10,000 refused. Black woman in Michigan sues PNC Bank after the white manager made an executive decision. Refused to cash the check that had the bank's name on it. She says it was embarrassing and humiliating. You're looking at Miss Kiara Young. She was attempting to cash a $10,500 check at a local PNC bank in Michigan when the bank refused to cash it without providing a valid explanation, leaving Young to assume it was because she was, quote, banking while black, especially considering the check was issued from a local car dealership that had their account with PNC Bank, meaning the name of the bank was on the damn check, meaning they did not have to wait to verify funds. All right. Young, who had just sold a car to the dealership, had tried to cash the check at her own bank, but was told to cash it in PNC Bank since it was their check. If PNC Bank had a reason to believe Young was committing fraud, they could have easily contacted the dealership to confirm the legitimacy of the check, which is standard protocol for banks. At first, the teller informed her that she would have to pay a 2% processing fee. Hold the hell up. Hold on. The bank teller said, you will have to pay a 2% processing fee. Now, is this PNC Bank or are you a check cashing establishment? Because at a check cashing establishment, they give you 2.5. You guys are 0.5% below. There's more. Which she actually said, okay. She agreed to pay a fee at the bank that the check was written from or on. But then other bank employees started to gather around the check. They started to examine the check, becoming suspicious of the check all of a sudden. They called the bank manager. The manager then told her they would not be cashing the check without having even bothered to conduct the routine investigation to determine the validity of the check. Instead, the manager told her to cash a check at your own bank. The white bank manager who refused to cash the check, quote, had an unprofessional tone, was rude, and gave Ms. Young an unfriendly look, according to a lawsuit Young filed against the bank last year. Quote, the only investigation the bank manager engaged in was determining Ms. Young's skin color and seeing the amount of the check to be cashed. The lawsuit obtained by Atlanta Black Star states defendants' failure to investigate the check before denying Ms. Young the service constituted a deviation from defendants' own policies or practices, unequal application of the policy here. In fact, Young was able to cash the check without any problem the following day at another PNC branch, which made the original bank's refusal even more suspicious. So here we go. Let's put them up. So PNC, the corporate office, they got answer for it now. So PNC Bank responded to the lawsuit by asking the judge to dismiss the case on the basis that it was factually deficient and fails to plausibly state a claim of racial discrimination. But more than a year since she filed the lawsuit, PNC Bank has failed to provide a valid reason as to why Young was denied service in the first place, other than claiming the bank was about to close and did not have enough cash on hand. Details that were never explained to Young when she was denied service. They made this up after the fact. It's called the huddle. According to the judge's decision, based on the allegation, the court has to make an inference about the bank manager's true reason since it was unstated. It can infer that the bank denied service for a legitimate business reason, or it can infer that the bank teller discriminated against Young on the basis of race. Without more, they are both plausible inferences. Reading the complaint in light of the most favorable view of Young, she has sufficiently pleaded facts that could plausibly suggest racial animus as a motivation for denying service. Now, understand what he's saying. He's saying that both are plausible. We're talking about evidence to evidence, okay? However, for the case to move forward, he's viewing it as a judge should in the most favorable light of the alleged injured party. I'm glad you hear this, sister. You can break some of this madness down as well. What say you?
Sure, definitely. Thank you so much for having me. As an attorney, I would say that Ms. Young definitely has a case. So starting off, what PNC Bank did, they tried to file a motion to dismiss, which in law terms is called a 12B6. So they're saying she doesn't have a case at all. Get rid of it. This is just what we do. And it's interesting that the judge came back and said, no, baloney. I don't believe that. And there were a few reasons he said that. One, the race of the bank teller versus the race of Miss Young. Miss Young is clearly a Black woman. The bank teller was a white woman. So we have that established. Second is the bank teller's tone also. He inferred from the complaint that Miss Young filed, she was rude. She didn't offer an explanation as to why she couldn't cash the check. She didn't say, oh, we don't have any money in the bank. She didn't say, come back tomorrow, maybe we can check. She just simply said, no. This is weird. It's just weird behavior. And we have to go, like you said, with the victim who suffered the injury in inferring what happened. So two things the judge found and completely decided that we're going to go with Miss Young. PNC since hasn't responded since their motion to dismiss was filed. Usually what happens here at some point is they're going to try to settle the case. They'll try to work their way through it. Because it's clearly a case of discrimination, plain and simple.
Now, here's the thing. You guys have been watching me for years. I come from the dealership world. I've worked at a dealership for 6 years. It's not uncommon that a dealership may give you a check or that a bank may give you a check, right? And it will have the bank's name on it, okay? And typically when that check has the bank's name on it, it's issued from the bank, you can actually get it cashed at that bank without having an account at that bank. This is nothing new. This is nothing, malicious or fraudulent or any way, shape, or form, because again, the check comes directly from the bank. So it should be easy to make this deposit. Now I know what some of you guys are going to say, well, she could just deposit at her bank. Yeah, but it's easier sometimes to just get it directly from the bank. It's from their money. This isn't the only time it's happened this year. Watch this.
Allegations of racial profiling at a local bank. The plaintiff asking why they wouldn't cash her settlement check, but had no problem doing it for a customer with a different skin color.
The woman at the center of this lawsuit says she tried 4 times, in fact, to cash a legitimate check until eventually it was confiscated.
Before suing the bank, her attorney decided to try and test whether racial discrimination was at play. Victor Williams picks up this story from the Comerica Bank branch at the corner of Adams and Walton in Rochester Hills.
Well, banking while black is a term that the plaintiffs said that they've heard before, but never thought they would experience. But all of that changed, they said, when they went to Comerica Bank right here in Rochester.
I never got racially profiled before, so I walked outside and I was crying. So it was embarrassing.
Cashing a $1,000 insurance settlement check was said to have been next to impossible for Shanquise Jones and Byron Kraft Jr.
Racial discrimination, it wouldn't be the first time for me, but still, you wouldn't want anybody to go through that.
Shanquise tried multiple times and she was denied the check being honored. She believes it's because of her skin tone.
It ain't nothing that you can more so do when you black. They already think we already, don't know nothing.
Her lawyer, Brandon McNeil, says she did everything right, but the check was still confiscated the fourth time she made an attempt.
They presented the check, signed the check, as well as submitted a thumbprint signature. The only thing that they were told was that there's an issue with the check, you need to get it reissued. And Ms. Jones did exactly as directed. And to make a long story short, she did that on 4 different occasions.
To test if the theory was correct, attorney McNeil tried something of his own.
We sent a white customer to the exact same Comerica Bank branch location, and they had a settlement check for $1,000. It was drafted on a Comerica Bank account, and that white customer had none of the same issues.
Now legal action is being taken.
We're comfortable putting it in the jury's hands. Comerica Bank has effectively stolen their check and provided them no recourse but to file this lawsuit.
Now, don't get me wrong. We know that there's a lot of fraud out here happening, right? But that's still no excuse on reasons why someone will say, hey, we can't cash your check. Do your job. Just do your job, which is depositing checks, making sure that there's fraudulent activity, being caught and things of that sort. But if things look legitimate, then just confirm it's legitimate. But you can see, especially with Comerica, they sent someone else in to test it. And so again, here we are. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next video.